What's going on, everyone? Welcome to a Football Friday edition of Back Your Play with Q. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones, and of course, our very good friend from On 3 Sports. He covers the college gamut, wrestling, football, you name it, does a great job. Cal Athletics, too, calling high school sports. Our guy, Nick Cosco, kind enough to join us. By the way, every Friday, we're brought to you by our very good friends over at Play It Again Sports. I got to tell you about some of the specials right now. You pay on the spot, but they also pay you right on the spot. Golf equipment, weights, merchandise, drivers, wedges. They'll give you top dollar. If you mention you heard it right here on this show, BYP, they'll give you 10% off your next purchase, or they'll add 10% on to your buy as well, your entire order. So they're really kind of helping you guys out. And like I said, they got the merchandise there. They got the tees, they got the sweatshirts, the hats, the mugs. They got everything you guys need to know. Check them out online. Play It Again Sports, put in the location, New Jersey. So with that being said, a little college football talk, catching up with our good friend. And Nick, always good to touch base. How you been?
Been doing pretty well. It's another week. College football is getting deeper into conference play now. It's October, so I think it's officially now football season after we've warmed up a couple of weeks of the NFL and college. So it's pretty good right now, but it's actually, I'm sporting my old Rutgers wrestling, club wrestling T-shirt right here. This is the old school one, back from my freshman year of college. So a month away to wrestling season. And I'm sure your listening audience is very fascinated by that too, I would say.
I see it's fitting you pretty well. I see that.
I mean, in my defense, it fits better now as I actually just came back in from the garage. A little chest today. I got to prepare for the high school football tonight. So, a little chest today.
There you go. Right. The legs be damned.
We are resting the legs today. We have competition next week. We are resting the legs.
There you go. All right. So let's crack through it. We got 5. So we'll go through Costco's picks with D's. And then I want to kind of circle back to what's going on with Michigan State as well, if we have time. But we'll start what I think is a really good Big 12 matchup. You got 2 undefeated squads coming in, both 5-0, 12th ranked Oklahoma, 3rd ranked Texas right now. Texas laying about 5.5, 6. The total is 61. And for me, for my money, you look at Texas. They put 34 up against Bama. They put 40 up against Kansas. I think it's about the D-line, Sweat, Murphy, and I think special teams is going to play a hand in this one. So I'll tell you right now, I'm leaning towards Texas with the points, even though I don't like the hook there. What side of the fence you lying?
Yeah, I'm leaning towards Texas too. I know the offense is basically the story of the offense is on the Texas side. Quinn Ewers, Xavier Worthy, A.D. Mitchell. I know Brooks has been running the ball really well as well. He was dominant last year. He had over 200 yards last week, a couple touchdowns. So Texas offense is rolling. You just mentioned a Sweat and Murphy on the other side for the Longhorns as well. Their defense is coming along. So this is what Steve Sarkisian was envisioning when he took the job at Texas. This is what he was going to build. This is what Texas was going to become. But again, we're now at the halfway point of the season where Texas is number 3 in the country. They're 5-0. They're looking like a college football playoff team. You still got to beat Oklahoma. I know they blew them out, threw them, throw that game out from last year. But Oklahoma is a totally different team this year. I didn't think they were actually going to be this good this year, Oklahoma. I figured, okay, you go from Brent Venables, disappointing first year, 6 wins, but then go right to 5-0. You're a top 15 team right off the bat. Dylan Gabriel's looking pretty good at quarterback this time around. The program is kind of molded around Brent Venables' vision now. Defense is really good. The offense can put up a lot of points, but the way Texas is playing right now, I think Texas has proven so far this year, Rich, that this is going to be a different season. Now, can they keep it going in the Cotton Bowl in a big-time spot? I would say yes. If they do win this game, if they win it convincingly, I think you can firmly say that's the team to beat in the Big 12, and any loss is going to be some sort of upset. And at that point, it'd be very disappointing if the Longhorns do not make the college football playoff at that point. But so, I'm with you in this one right now. The 5.5, I'll take it. Texas wins this one by, I would say, between 7 and 10 points. It'll be a good game, but I think Texas does keep this one in control throughout the entire afternoon.
Yeah, a little more juice to it. The Red River rivalry, I'm leaning towards Texas. I'm actually thinking about playing the total as well over 61. I think you're going to see some points in this one.
Absolutely.
The lines are fickle, man. The lines are funny when you think about it. You look at Alabama, Texas A&M. Alabama's ranked 11th. We know they got their 1 loss on their docket, 3 straight wins after the loss to Texas. And Texas A&M just kind of sitting there 4-1, 2-0 in conference play. But yet, when you look at this line, Alabama 2.5, probably close. It'll sit right where it's at. I feel as though this is almost like, all right, entice us a little bit. Alabama on the road, righting the ship, and here we go. We thought last week if there was going to be a time where they can stub their toe, maybe it was last week. That wasn't the case, obviously. We saw them put together a really spirited win, and they put up 40. I think Texas A&M is going to keep this game relatively close.
It seems to be that way because this was the game a couple of years ago where Bama lost at Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher, and everyone's like, whoa, Jimbo, finally, it's going to get this thing going. It seems like he was getting it going this year. It was up and down. The Miami loss notwithstanding, of course. But, you look at the Texas A&M Aggies right now, Rich. This is a pretty solid football team. And even though they're outside the top 25 right now, this would be a pretty huge victory should they pull off this upset. Not only would it knock Alabama out of the playoff mix there with 2 losses, and then, I mean, it'd be only one conference loss, so the division title is not out of the realm of possibility. But Texas A&M and Ole Miss, and basically the entire West Division is now up for grabs should Alabama lose this game. And the line's interesting because I think it opened at 1, but now it's moved to 2. So I think people are taking Bama now at this point. It's still basically a pick 'em. No Connor Wegman, of course, for Texas A&M for the rest of the year. So it's the Max Johnson story. And how about him? He transferred from LSU to come to this place, and he still really couldn't be the full-time starter. But how about him sticking it out right there? And now he gets the opportunity to keep leading this team. But you mentioned this game's going to be close. I think it is going to be close, but I mean, it's hard for me to not take the road favorite. And you know me with my road favorites. I say it every week. But this is basically a pick 'em, I would say, for Alabama. I really can't see them losing this game. I think they are rolling right now, and I think you're starting to see the return to form, so to speak, with the Crimson Tide. Jalen Milroe played really well last week. The run game's come alive. The defense shut down Mississippi State as well the other week. So I'm with the Crimson Tide right now, and them just keep this rolling. And I would say at this rate, they're probably, just the old standard, Rich, 11-1 SEC title game. We'll see what they do against Georgia for the most part.
Yeah, and you mentioned too that Texas A&M win a couple of years ago. That was 41-38. They raced out to a 17-7 lead. That was in 2021. I think Texas A&M, it's ball control, line of scrimmage. You got to get the ground game going. You have to limit how many opportunities, offensive opportunities, you get Bama in this one. The total though, it's 46. That's kind of low.
I think they're relying on the fact that maybe Max Johnson is not going to be the aerosol type of quarterback they want for Texas A&M in this one. Connor Wegman obviously was a big recruiting get for Jimbo Fisher the other year. So they're thinking the offense is going to maybe take a step back a little bit. And with that, you have to rely, like, is Alabama going to be putting up 35 every week, 35, 40, 42 points every week, which maybe not the case because maybe the believers still aren't all there for Jalen Milroe. But I mean, he played a good game last week. So it could be one of those situations for Alabama's offense where you see Milroe go kind of like this little roller coaster ride where some weeks he'll look great as a passer and other weeks he's going to look better as a runner, and they're going to play more ball control. So that total is probably about right. I'd still hit the over, and I'm still taking Alabama in this one, though.
All right, fair enough. And forgive me, I did leap over a game, but Football Friday edition, college version of BYP with Q. Nick Costco, kind enough to join us at Nick Costco 59. Does a great job covering college sports for On3 Sports, voice of RU Wrestling, of course, Cal Live Sports. I jumped over LSU and Mizzou, and this game to me,
I can't believe you did that. It's a ranked matchup.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? Bad job by me. That's horrible job, right? 23rd ranked LSU, 21st ranked. You got to jump in there and just pull me back, right? Don't let me back in that regard. How about LSU, right? So they're 3-2. They're laying 5. They just gave up 55 to Ole Miss. And I guess the argument is Mizzou really hasn't played anyone. They had the 3-point win against K-State, but then Vandy, Memphis, and I think they played Middle Tennessee State. But they're still 5-0.
Yeah, the schedule's not great, but you're right. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know if this is my look, but don't touch. I mean, I'm always a little weary when you have these, 4-0, 5-0, kind of sneaking up on people. Here we go. And then the rubber meets the road, and you kind of play the big boys who might have stubbed their toe a couple times. And the big boys to me right now is LSU. So maybe Mizzou is kind of walking in to a buzzsaw here in this one.
It's a weird game because LSU, the offense is great. We see Jaden Daniels fantastic. You saw the game last week against Ole Miss. I mean, they pretty much just blew that game, of course, against the Ole Miss Rebels right there. So Jaden Daniels, I mean, if he keeps it going, this is the type of game where this Tigers team could put up 35, 45, maybe pushing the 50 mark against Mizzou. But Mizzou, quietly really good. The schedule's not great. I know they beat Kansas State when Kansas State was, I believe they were 15th at the time.
They were.
So that was a good win for Mizzou. But the team itself playing this schedule, not great. But you look at the Tigers, Rich, they got something cooking right now under Eli Drinkwitz, who basically is of the mind of, this is a coach where you're like, all right, you're happy that they can win 6-7 games. They're already at the 5-win mark. So what is the ceiling for this team? I'm not saying they're going to beat Georgia. I'm not saying they're going to beat, win the SEC East and get to the title game, but Missouri quietly good. And again, with those road favorites, I feel like I should not touch this game, Rich, but I'm more inclined to take Mizzou +6 right now in this game at home, because LSU cannot stop a lick right now. And I cannot believe it, considering they have the best linebacker in college football, arguably the best defender in college football in Harold Perkins. Not really sure how to use him for some reason this year, and it's not making an impact across the entire board right now. So I can see this being more of a shootout. I see the totals at 64. Maybe you have one of those 35-28 type of games, 34-31. We're pushing into the maybe pushing towards the 70s as well in the total. So I would maybe take Mizzou in this one, but I would say maybe hit that over, at least hit the over on this one. But if you're going to take the spread, take Mizzou, but I'm going to stay away from that for right now. But I would not count on Mizzou in this game, though.
But the line is telling you there's no respect for Mizzou right there, and I think it's based on the level of oppositions, right? So after this game, they've got Kentucky, South Carolina, but then they got Georgia and Tennessee. So this feel-good story can pretty much be moot in 2-3
Oh, it could be. And this could very well be the game where Mizzou needs to win this one, so it has that signature feel, at least that ranked win.
Legit win.
Right, yeah, a legit win. You're 6-0. You're going to you'll be pushing top 15 next week. Yep. But then after that, where does this team go? If they're 6-0, are they going to finish 8-4? Do they go 2-4 down the stretch? It's totally possible based on their schedule. So we'll see how it goes. But again, I think Mizzou has a little something cooking. I think that the schedule aside, I think they're starting to get that momentum going where it's going to be hard to stop them. They won't exactly be derailed in just 1 week.
Football Friday edition of BYP with Q. Nick Costco, kind enough to join us. And of course, we're sponsored from our good friends over at Play It Again Sports. Don't forget to log in and check us out on Leon Media. And of course, 102.9 The Game, part of the Broad Street South Network in Florida. All right, let's keep it rolling. Kentucky and Georgia. It's funny because you look at this game on the surface and you're like, all right, Georgia 14.5, they're 5-0, but they haven't really been that dominant, right?
No, that's the narrative all year right now.
Rough shot 5-0.
Everyone's like, where are the two-time national champions? Everyone's like, well, we thought this team was gonna three-peat and wasn't gonna be close. Maybe initially in the beginning of the year, Rich, I thought this team was going to three-peat, or I thought it had a great shot. I think they still do. I think the close results are more much ado about nothing, but it's not nothing. If you catch my drift here, I feel like this team could still go 11-1, 12-0, get to the title game, and still get into the playoff. In fact, I mean, my preseason pick was them going number 2, or they would get the number 2 ranking in the CFP, and they would still get back to the college football playoffs. So I can't get rid of that yet, but this game, I'm sure you have thoughts on this too. This game is very interesting because Kentucky is like, hey, don't forget about us. Like, we're actually a legitimate 100%. Football program right now. Florida, fake top 25 team. We ran over them last week. Kentucky, we're actually a football program here. Mark Stoops doing one hell of a job with the Wildcats right now.
Yeah, and I think this game, again, I feel like it's kind of the theme every week in the pros and in college. It's the line of scrimmage. I mean, you look at the rushing attack from Kentucky. They're averaging about 6.5 yards a clip. The kid Davis is phenomenal. They've got a mix and match. They've got offsetting backs. Obviously, they've got a decent quarterback. You can't get into games where you're turning the ball over. I know he's got 10 touchdowns, 4 picks. The line done a relatively good job. But you mentioned Georgia for a minute, and they pretty much staked their claim with their defense over the last several seasons. Really, 2 games were close. The other games were blowouts. But I feel as though there's not juice with them, right? I think every week we want that 50-10 win, and that's not how it's going to be in college football.
No, it's not. If you look at their schedule, UT Martin, Ball State. Okay, we knew what they were going to do there. The South Carolina game opened up some eyes because South Carolina, at least on the surface right now, not that great. Okay, they're a middle of the road SEC team right now, and they only beat them by 10, and that was in Athens, of course. And they're not at UAB. They were home against UAB. blew them out. But again, not a Power 5 team. No offense to the Blazers down there. And Trent, is that Trent Dilfer's school? Is that before Trent Dilfer went absolutely
UAB.
berserk on the sideline?
Yeah.
But then they go at Auburn. Not an easy play. I don't care how bad Auburn is or how good they are. That place is always difficult to play down in Jordan-Hare. But you beat Auburn by 7 points in a team that is kind of rebuilding under Hugh Freeze in year one of his tenure. You beat him by 7.
Yeah.
Auburn right now, this is not Cam Newton Auburn. This is Hugh Freeze year one rebuilding Auburn. Right. So, is there cause for concern for Georgia? Not necessarily, because again, they haven't lost a game yet. They've been firmly in control of most of these games, and then they pull it out as again the two-time champs. Again, I've said this every week because we break down our SEC power rankings. We break down the polls with the reactions to all the polls every week. I say it every week, Rich. Until you beat the king, you're not gonna be the king. Okay, they will be the kings until somebody knocks them off. Now, who is gonna be that team this year? The schedule does not tell me anybody's gonna do that right now. Do I still think they're gonna beat this team? Yes, but I think that you're almost just waiting for the other shoe to drop right now.
There you go. We're waiting. We want the dominant performance night in and night out, right? We look at the Philadelphia Eagles. We look at Kansas City. All right, what's wrong? These teams are stubbing their toe. They're flawed, but yet they're still winning a boatload of games.
Right, they're still winning, and then they're arguably still the favorites to go all the way.
To your point with Mizzou and LSU, show me something game if you're Mizzou. I mean, listen, if you're Kentucky and you keep this game close or you find a way to win this game, now all of a sudden you got to look in Kentucky in a different light.
I mean, it turns the entire division on its head because now Kentucky gets the head-to-head over Georgia. They remain undefeated at the halfway point of the season. So at that point, if you're Georgia, you get upset here. To get to the SEC title game, you need Kentucky to lose twice. And if Kentucky's as good as I think they could be, and they actually come out with a win in Athens, this is a Kentucky team that I feel like, Rich, is not going to lose 2 games in the regular season. They may drop 1, but they're going to have the head-to-head tiebreaker. And guess where Kentucky's going? They're going to Atlanta, baby. They're going down. They're going to Georgia's backyard, and they will play for an SEC championship game, probably against Alabama, the way I see it. But the boys in Vegas usually know what they're talking about. This is a 2-touchdown spread for a reason.
14.5.
But I will take Kentucky in this game plus 14.5. Not to win outright, but I will take Kentucky plus 14.5 here. I think this is a game where it's a little too close for comfort for Georgia again. It's one of those games where, there's no moral victories, Rich, but you come away, little golf clap for Kentucky, and Georgia, you're like, what the heck is going on? This team is everyone's going to freak out this week and maybe say, well, Georgia barely beat Kentucky. What's wrong with Georgia? Bama's going to steamroll them in the championship game, or Georgia's going to go one and done in the play. Like, Georgia's not three-peating this year.
Yeah.
Like, three-peating is any easy task, of course, but I think this is a week where you start seeing more cracks in the armor of Georgia and the narrative surrounding Kirby Smart going for that the third national championship.
I like the but. It's almost like in Espanol, pero, tranquilo, relax, but it's like you're just setting it up, but times 2.
Gotta set that up. Yes, I will go with Kentucky there.
Yeah, a game that we'll wrap it up with this: Notre Dame and Louisville. And I can't stand. My disdain for Notre Dame is just it's well documented, it's well highlighted.
Someone hurt you as a child. I understand.
Listen, my father hated Notre Dame. I hate Notre Dame. Did we like the movie Rudy? Sure. Why not? Did a tear start? Maybe. But other than that,
I'm not gonna say Rudy's the greatest movie ever. But I mean, if you don't like the movie,
that's what I'm saying. You might have some issues, and you need to be hugged a little more. I get it. I have buddies that went to Louisville, that played at Louisville as well. So I have a little soft spot for Louisville here because they've kind of been, when you think about it, over the last several years, a down university here and there. I hope they go out and they wax Notre Dame. I don't know if that's going to be the case. It's the line. I've seen it as low as 5. I've seen it as high as 6, 6.5. I just don't know where I kind of lean with this game. Notre Dame, they've had the luck of the Irish thus far in a couple games this year.
Puns aside, of course. Notre Dame, I mean, pretty solid. And I think we said this last week. If Notre Dame stops Ohio State on that final play of the game, we're looking at this team completely different. Because they're at this point to be 6-0, by the way. But they're already playing their 7th game. So I mean, they have not stopped since the beginning of the season, since playing in Dublin. If this team is 6-0, they're arguably a top 5 team. Okay. And we're looking at them completely different. But you
Uh,
can't. I'm saying we are, because a 6-0 Notre Dame team with this type of quarterback and Sam Hartman, with that type of defense coached by Marcus Freeman, knocking off the Buckeyes in a game where there virtually was no offense throughout the entire 4 quarters. You're looking at Notre Dame as like, this team is going to go to the playoff because
but
they're not going to lose to anybody.
what about the 4 teams that they beat up on to start the season that they just pencil in to take some of these games?
They beat them up. You play who you play, right? I'm not going to penalize any team for being, you could take, I take the games with a grain of salt, of course, because, they beat up Navy, Tennessee State. They ran by NC State. Central Michigan ran by them. But Duke.
Keep making my point. That Duke, okay. Duke's a tricky team. And
right,
I don't put them top 5 if they beat Ohio State.
I disagree. Because Ohio State right now, with the way Ohio State is ranked right now at number 6, I think Notre Dame, and again, we know how this works. With the coaches, the way the coaches vote, the way the media votes, that a Notre Dame win over Ohio State is viewed a little bit bigger than other wins.
That is true.
So, I'm not saying they would have been top 5 with the win over Ohio State. I'm saying if they had won that game and then you add the win over Duke last week, and Duke, very good program, very good football team this year. Unfortunately, with Riley Leonard's injury, what does Duke look like the rest of the year? And that's obviously a different conversation, but Notre Dame does have 2 legit games, one which they arguably should have won, but the 10 men on the field, that was horrible. But they beat a good Duke team on the road. Now this game is very intriguing, and they look at the rest of the schedule. They're home against USC next week. So this next 2-game stretch is going to determine if they're a playoff team. If they win these next 2 games, I don't see them losing the rest of the year. I know they have to go at Clemson. Clemson is what it is, but it's still a tough place to play. Louisville, as I was trying to get into before, is not a team to be overlooked. So you look at Louisville and you say, okay, how did Jeff Brom do this? Jeff Brom comes from Purdue. He had Purdue up here, right? Big Ten championship game. Look at Purdue now. Nowhere near, right? Jeff Brom goes home, goes back to his alma mater. Okay, rebuilding. They're 5-0. He got his quarterback in there. They're playing lights out right now. They're a top 25 team. This is another good opportunity for Notre Dame to get a huge win. You get a ranked win on the road against an undefeated team in prime time. I think Notre Dame is going to win this game. I think it's going to be worth a lot more when you look down later in the season, because the way of Louisville has played so far this year. I think we'll continue to play in the ACC.
All right, so a couple things. I want to counter something. They
Sure.
didn't beat Ohio State. So if they did, fine, we'll keep it there for a minute. But you're going to tell me they're going to leapfrog Penn State, Washington, Florida State, Oregon. Oregon would wax Notre Dame. You don't think Oregon would wax Notre Dame?
Now we're playing hypotheticals. Do I think they're going to wax them? No, I think Notre Dame's one of the best teams.
You just turned around and told me if they would have beat Ohio State. They didn't beat Ohio State. So you're saying you have to go with what we know, right? It's tangible. We got to touch it.
Based on what we know. What I know is a gaffe cost them the game against Ohio State, so I'm not going to hold it against them the rest of the year. And I'm not saying this to antagonize, because I know your hatred of Notre Dame right here.
I was about to just say that. Maybe the non-objectivity.
I'm not trying to stick a little fork in your side right there. So, but the way Notre Dame looks right now, and you have to play hypotheticals. Oregon could lose. Don't forget about Oregon could lose to Washington. Then we're talking about Washington as one of the best teams in the country, which I firmly believe Washington is one of the best teams in the country.
Fair point.
We criticize USC's defense all the time, but USC could outscore Oregon and Washington and beat them. We don't know.
Well, hell, we were criticizing Georgia because they're not blowing people out.
I mean, I'm not going to hold it against Georgia either. They are playing who they're playing, and again, I just said it 5 minutes ago. Until you beat the Kings, the Kings will remain the Kings there. So I do like Notre Dame, and it's simply because of the fact they have a great defense, they have a great running game with Audric Estime, and that they have the quarterback. If they lose this game, then obviously forget about the playoff and forget about what I said about Notre Dame. Then throw it in the trash. My take is wrong. Put me on freezing cold takes. This team at 11-1, Rich, Notre Dame, if they're 11-1, they will have a substantial shot at making the college football playoff. I said this. I
can't argue that. That I agree with. I can't argue that.
But again, like you said, it depends on how the Michigans, the Ohio States, and the Penn States all shake out. I think it would bode well for Notre Dame if we're talking hypotheticals. If Ohio State went undefeated, because that'd be their only loss, and you're looking at a Big Ten champ that's in the playoff, that would bode well for Notre Dame. But with a close loss to Ohio State, you beat Duke, you beat Louisville, you beat USC, you beat Clemson. tough to argue with that resume as I shake my camera and smacking my desk here.
You just keep. What are you hearing as far as Michigan State? Now, there's this buzz now, Urban Meyer, Michigan State, Urban Meyer, Michigan State.
No. Urban Meyer vehemently denied that. Now, he's done that before. when he was in between coaching gigs at Florida and Ohio State, he said he was not going to Ohio State. He ends up going. We've seen it with Nick Saban. No, I'm not going to Alabama. Goes to Alabama. Do I think Urban Meyer will go to Michigan State? Absolutely not. No, I don't think so. Michigan State thing is a whole mess. I don't know who they're going to go after. I know guys like Mike Elko have been thrown out to the Duke head coach. That was a popular name thrown out there. I've seen Brian Hartline, as I mentioned last week, the Ohio State offensive coordinator. That's been thrown out there.
That good hire.
It would be a good hire. Lance Leipold, I know he wants to stay in Kansas, but if Michigan State comes knocking with Big Ten money, you're going to at least listen. So, and he's done a heck of a job with Kansas, turning that program around as well. So, Urban Meyer, no. And this is nothing against Urban Meyer, but I think what he did in the NFL and the
100%
the negativity, I should say the negative PR.
Clear.
If you're Michigan State, just no. I know Urban Meyer is a beloved college head coach, but there's always negative PR following him somewhere, I would say, or at least there's criticism of him in some sort of fashion. He's not a clean whistle, so to speak. So if you're Michigan State, you steer clear. And he's been out of the college game now for, I think, 4 or 5 years. It not that it's passed him by. He's in the college game as a media person. So is he plugged in? Yes, but we saw him take his dive into the NFL. And again, it's different between the NFL and college. But I think being out of the game for a couple of years, especially at his age now, and he's a lot of mileage on. I mean, he's not old rich, but he's one of those coaches that has a lot of mileage on him right now. Yeah. So no, I would say no shot he coaches Michigan State. And I know there's speculation out there as to what Mel Tucker's new lawsuit means and what he alleges with witnesses, and as far as his relationship with the accuser, Brenda Tracy, and where this is going to go. This, as we've said for weeks, Rich, the whole Mel Tucker thing, it's not even close to being over. No. This is going to drag out the rest 100%. Of the season, the next calendar year. How does it end? I'm no legal expert. It's all hearsay on both sides, right? He said, she said on both sides. Yep. So until more details and facts come out, this is going to drag on. It's going to be a little dark. It's not going to be a huge dark cloud. It's going to be a little dark cloud of Michigan State right now as they try to navigate their coaching search and try to just distance themselves from that whole situation, whether he was guilty, whether he's innocent, whether it's been a whole mess the entire time. Who knows at this point? Well, it seems like it only got messier after they got rid of him.
Typically, these types of situations and cases do, and he's guilty of poor judgment, without a doubt. Got about a minute left. I want to ask you this. Did you hear or read about this anonymous, this report coming out with Shedeur Sanders from a Pac-12 coach? He's accusing him of stat padding to keep his percentages up. So he's got the second highest completion percentage in the Pac-12, 74%, second most passing yards, almost 1,800. So basically they believe that Sanders is racking up stats by taking a sack instead of throwing the ball away in order to preserve his high completion percentage.
I would say that's a ludicrous take.
Probably Oregon's head coach.
It's frankly, it could be USC because they almost blew that game last week against Colorado. I don't know where that came from. My response to that is, I mean, again, I don't know I don't know a lot of these big time quarterbacks personally. In fact, I actually know zero. I've talked to quarterbacks before at the pro level, at the college level, the high school level. I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, no quarterback, unless they have to for the purpose of the play, no quarterback wants to get sacked 5 to 10 yards in the backfield. Nobody wants to absorb those hits. That is absolutely ludicrous. I think if that's a USC person saying that anonymous quote, they need to take a look at their defense because they almost blew a 41-14 lead on the road. Can't let that happen. Shedeur Sanders, he's great. I think he's phenomenal. I think he's a phenomenal quarterback, but he's not, one, he's not going to the NFL next year. Nope. And two, he'll firmly be in the Heisman race in 2024 when Colorado is waxing the Big 12 in next calendar year.
Yeah, you called it months ago. All right, you have any games on the docket that you're broadcasting calling this weekend?
We are about, as we record this, we're about a little less than 5 hours away from kickoff. Mainland Regional High School goes to Absegami tonight out in Galloway. That'll be on Cape Atlantic Live on YouTube. Of course, it's a United Division clash, and if Mainland wins this game, Rich, they'll improve to 7-0 and also clinch a share of the United Division in the West Jersey Football League as they are getting closer and closer to the playoffs. We're getting near that cutoff date. So right now, Mainland fighting for the #1 overall seed in South Jersey Group 4, try to get home playoff games throughout sectionals and possibly a home state semifinal game if it comes to that as well.
Excellent stuff. Follow Nick on Twitter at Nick Cosco 59 on 3 Sports on Twitter. And also, he just mentioned all the games that he does at Cal_Live Sports. Check him out, Cape Atlantic Live Sports Media. These guys do a phenomenal job production and the broadcast. So, all right, my friend, enjoy the slate of games as Louisville is pounding Notre Dame. You will be getting text messages from me, and I'll just kind of leave it at that.
I guess we can leave it at that. But come, kickoff time's what? Interesting 7:37 kickoff. Come 9:59 if it's about 24 to.
My phone will be on mute.
24 to 8, 24-7, 24-8. Sam Hartman's thrown 2 tuds, and Ardrick Estimate has 100 yards in the first half. We get a couple texts.
I know you're going to send. You're just going to send the eyeballs. That's pretty much.
No, I'll send you a little leprechaun or something.
Oh my goodness, block mute stuff. All right, brother. Always appreciate you jumping on BYP. We'll do it again next week.
Appreciate you, Rich.